ongoing thing.
Hello friends, and welcome to another class by Daily English Classroom. In today's class we are going to learn a new unit in 10th standard, and it is called the Law of Values. Now let's see what's the meaning of this unit, Law of Values. What do we understand by law? Well, law is a tradition or knowledge that is passed from generation to generations or from person to person. So a law of values means some good qualities or values that we need to follow in our life. So in this unit we have three important lessons in this unit. The first one is the best investment I ever made, which is an anecdote. Anecdote means a short and amusing story about a real incident that happened in somebody's life. So this is an anecdote of J Cronin. Then we have a speech by an African lady called Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie called The Danger of a Single Story, and we have a wonderful poem to study in this unit called The Ballad of Father Gilligan by William Butler Yeats. Okay, now let's start with the entry activity. In the entry activity you can see a cartoon that gives a message. Now, what do we see in the picture? In the picture, we can see two horses, and both of them are trying to come near to some food, some grass or some hay, and both of them are moving in the opposite directions. So what happens then? The two horses are trying very hard to come near to the food or to this grass, but none of them was able to actually get near to that food because both of them are moving in the opposite directions, and they are tied and they are moving in the opposite direction, so they cannot reach near to the food. And after struggling for a long time, they understand what's the problem, why they were not able to come near to the food, and then they decided to move together. So see the difference, that first they were trying to move in opposite directions, and then they were moving in the same direction. When they are moving in the same direction, going in opposite directions, both of them will not reach near to the food. So they started thinking about it, and they are going to one direction, and once they complete the food in that side, they go to the other direction. So some questions are there based on this picture, and the questions are: what were the horses trying to do at the beginning of the story, and did it work? So what were the horses doing at the beginning of the story? They were trying to move near to the food which was placed in two opposite directions, and since they are tied together, they cannot go freely. So both of them were struggling very hard to reach the food, but they cannot reach it because both of them were powerful. And what did the horses do when they found that their first attempt had failed? When they found that their first attempt failed, they made a rethinking and decided to go together. So that we can see in the fifth picture, both of them going together to one side and having the food, and then going to the other side. So what actually is the message of this picture? What idea do you get from this picture? Of course, we have to work together. Unity is strength. That is one message that we can get from this picture. When the two horses were going separately in two different directions, they could not reach their goal. Whereas when they are going together, they could reach and find their aim. So that's one message that you can get from this picture. And also There is one question that is given at the end of it. How do you usually solve the problems when you have a difference of opinion with your friends? In many occasions, you may come across different situations where you have a different opinion about something, and you and your friend, they have a different opinion about one particular thing. How will you solve that problem, or what attitude you can show? What is your response to such an occasion? Do you have to fight with your friend? Do you have to kick your friend? No, you have to make your friend understand his point of view, and you can imagine yourself in his side and think about that issue. And you can convince your friend, of course, your point, but peacefully, trying to understand him and try to understand his point of view, and then coming into a good decision. This is the way we have to approach such problems where you have a difference of opinion between you and your friend. So that's a good message that you can get from this cartoon. And now let's move on to the lesson. The best investment I ever made. When you hear the title of the story, what idea comes to your mind? Of course, you heard the word investment. Investment means depositing money in the bank. That's a kind of investment, but this is not that type of investment that we are going to learn. This is something different. This is something more. I'm not giving the details of that because we will go through that in the coming sessions. So this is the story of a doctor. Remember that point. This is the story of a doctor, and his name is J Cronin. J Cronin is also a writer and also a physicist, is a doctor, and he is the narrator of the story, and he tells the story. So I here in the story is J Cronin, and the doctor is returning after a voyage to the United States of America, and the story takes place on a ship. And there he happens to meet a friend who is a little bit shy and timid and who is not ready to come near to the doctor. But that person is always looking at him, watching him secretly and gazing at him. And the doctor was aware of that. J Cronin, he was aware of the fact that someone is watching him all the time, but that person is not courageous enough to come near to him and to talk to him. So why this person is looking at me? He was really surprised. But many different types of people from different culture and different parts of the society are traveling in a ship. So we don't want to have a friendship with all the people in the ship. So he did not give much importance to the fact that someone is watching him. But when he is looking at him, he is turning his face like he is a bit afraid to come and talk to him. But he knows the doctor very well. It seems like he knows the person very well, but he is little shy and afraid to come near to the doctor or something. Okay, let's read the first paragraph. Let's go through the first 5 paragraphs of the story and understand and familiarize ourselves with the difficult words in this paragraph. So this is the situation. The story takes place on a ship. The doctor, J Cronin, the narrator. The writer is the narrator here, and it is from a first-person point of view. The story is told in a first-person narrative. I is J Cronin, or the writer of the story, and he tells us his experience when he was traveling on a ship way back from America to his home. So we have some details about J Cronin given in your textbook. He is a doctor, a Scottish novelist, and also a physician. A physician means a doctor, and his career as a novelist started in 1930 when he was designated with a chronic ulcer and compelled to take 6 months complete rest. So he got a great opportunity to write when he was bedridden because of some serious physical problem, some illness, because of some illness, and he got some time to work on his literary pursuit. And during this time, he was able to indulge in his lifelong desire to write novel, having previously written nothing but prescriptions and scientific papers. So that illness, a blessing in disguise, we can say, that illness gave him some time to concentrate more on doing some literary works. So he started writing, and his first novel was Hatter's Castle, and the most popular being The Citadel. Many of his stories have been adapted to Hollywood movies. So many of his stories are taken by film directors, and they change that into movies or films. Okay, let's start with the lesson. The best investment I ever made. Who is I? Here is J Cronin. And what is the investment? Is there an investment in a bank? We'll see in the story. On the second day out from New York, while making the round of promenade deck, I suddenly became aware that one of the passengers was watching me closely, following me with his gaze every time I passed. I want to rest to avoid the tedium of casual and importunate shipboard contacts. I gave no sign of having noticed the man. So the story happens when the doctor was coming back from the America to his home in Scotland, and on the way, when he was having a daily walk at the promenade deck. Promenade deck is that part of the ship where people can walk. It's a place for walking in the ship. So the doctor, he was walking up and down in the promenade deck, and he noticed that someone is watching him carefully. And he was not interested in having to create some friendship with unknown persons, and also there may be so many lots and lots of people who are traveling on the ship, and he doesn't want to create any unnecessary or unwanted friendship. So he didn't go and meet him. Instead, he just neglected him, maybe some person. So he didn't give any sign that he had seen that person, but he was sure that someone is watching him carefully. Yet there was nothing importunate about him. On the contrary, he seemed affected by a troubled, rather touching diffidence. Now, diffidence means lack of confidence or shyness. So there's this man who was following the narrator. He looks like a gentleman. There is no problem with him in his appearance. He looks like a gentleman, but he has got some kind of a problem to approach him, to come near to him. It's a kind of a shyness, or it seems like he's a little bit afraid to come near and talk to him. And he observed that man. He was in his early 40s, rather short in build, with a fair complexion and clear blue eyes. His thin hair had begun to recede from his forehead. His dark suit, sober tie, and rimless spectacles gave evidence of a serious and reserved disposition. This person looks like a very serious man. He was wearing spectacles without any rim, rimless spectacles, and was wearing a coat and suit. That he looks very serious. And he's a middle-aged man. He's a middle-aged man in his early 40s, and his hair had begun to recede from his forehead. There are some signs of getting older, because his hair on the forehead has started receding, going back, and he was something like a large forehead, because his hair has gone a little backwards, receded from the forehead. And this man looks like a serious man, but why he's afraid, we don't know. At this point, the bugle sounded for dinner, and I went below. He was thinking about all these things. What prevents this man from coming near to me? Why he seems to be afraid? When he was thinking like this, suddenly there came the sound of the bugle, which is the sign that it's time for dinner in the ship. So he heard the sound of the bugle, and he went for having his dinner. Okay, on the following forenoon means before the noon time, I again observed my fellow voyager watching me earnestly. Again, the next day also the same thing continued. Someone is watching the doctor. He is looking at the doctor, but is afraid to approach him. So in the next day also this continued, and he was watching him. Someone was watching me or the doctor, and this time there was one more person with him. That is of course his wife. So a couple, a husband and wife, is now looking at him. And this situation by the time had begun to intrigue me. So I was really confused and baffled. Why this man is coming after me all the time? Why is he looking at me and not coming near to me and talking to me? I was a little embarrassed why this man is like this. And I discovered from my steward that they were Mr. and Mrs. John S. from a small suburb of London. So he inquired about them to the steward in the ship, and he told them that they are Mr. and Mrs. John S. something. And from a small suburb of London. When another day passed without event, I began to feel certain that Mr. S would remain too shy to carry out his obvious desire to approach me. So the doctor thought that 2 days passed and he did not come near to him. So they are coming near to the end of their travel, so there won't be any meeting between him and the doctor. So he was thinking like that. But on that day something happened. That means on the final day. However, on the last day, on the last evening at the sea, Mrs. S decided the matter. So at last Mrs. S, that means Mrs. John, the lady with the man, she has made a decision to bring him near to him. So with her insistence, he decided to go and meet the doctor. With a firm pressure on his hand and whispered round in his ear, she urged her husband towards me as I passed along the deck. So on the last day, when the doctor was passing along the deck, the man's wife, he forcefully pushed her husband near to him because she knows that there is some kind of fear in him, and she wants him to talk to the doctor. So the man started, "Excuse me, doctor, I wonder if I might introduce myself." He spoke almost breathlessly. Offering me the visiting card he held in his hand and studying my face to see if the name meant anything to me. So the man came near to him and said that he would like to introduce himself to him, and also he gave the doctor his visiting card, and his name was written there on the visiting card. And this man, he was watching if the doctor can recognize him, can understand him, identify him by the name. And then this name didn't make any change. Maybe there is some kind of a connection between this man and the doctor, but that's something that happened so many years ago that the doctor, he did not remember that name. So the man, again, he continued. Then, as it plainly did not, he went on with the same awkwardness, a strange behavior from the part of the man. And if you could spare a few minutes, my wife and I would like to have a word with you. We would like to have a conversation with you if you have time. Okay, the doctor said, okay, let's go to my room. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's go to my room and have a conversation. The doctor agreed. Okay, that's all from the first part of the story. So let's recollect what we have learned in this class. The name of the story is very important. The best investment I ever made. I here is the narrator, the story writer, J Cronin. and it happens on a ship when the doctor was going back to his home from the New England or the United States, and on the way in the ship he met someone who knows him but who was a little afraid to come and talk to him. And on the last day, when they were near to their destination, this man's wife forced him, and then they have a conversation, and from their conversation we will understand who this man is and what is the connection between this man and J Cronin, and why he was so reluctant or a little bit shy or diffident to come near to the doctor. All these things we'll learn in the next class. So thanks for watching and have a nice day. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe, and we will be uploading more and more classes in the coming days. See you. Bye bye.